Welcome back to another episode of Unleashed Alchemy. So, listen, in this episode, I want to provide you with some support. If you are going through spiritual elevation, you can call it an awakening, you can call it a dark moment. I want to provide you with some support. You may be feeling called to end something, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business, you're being called to release something. And I want to talk about why this release can feel challenging. All right. So I want you to listen to this episode. It's going to give you the support that you need. Okay. So, first thing I want to say is during a spiritual transformation, what happens, the core of that is you releasing and shedding an old identity first and foremost. It is the internal shift that happens. That old identity is being shed so that the core of you can be expressed, can be exposed, so that you can return to your soul, so that you can return to your intuition, so that you can return and experience your soul aligned, soul fulfilled life. All right. So, the old identity, what it's holding on to, has to be disintegrated. Okay. This is where that transformational fire, which I've talked about in previous episodes, that's where that comes in. And that is why it is important to show yourself gratitude and grace when you are going through a transformational fire. Why is it important to show yourself gratitude and grace? Because often, even though that internal shift is happening, your outside environment, things can start to look as though they are crumbling, but actually things are coming together. All right. So it can look like a challenging situation when really it's an opportunity for that new identity to be magnetized. Okay. So, speaking of self gratitude, if you have not signed up for the 8 days of self gratitude, which is where I send you 8 very short, brief audio messages that talk about the enchantment that happens in your life when you show yourself gratitude. If you haven't signed up for that, please do that. Do that right now. Okay, the link to sign up is in the description box of this video. So, why is it hard, or one of the reasons it's hard or can feel hard to release something, whether that's something you can fill in the blank. That could be a relationship of any kind, a friendship. It could mean the end of a business. It could even mean a dream that you are releasing. Perhaps you've had a dream, okay? And perhaps that dream is starting to not look as exciting as it was before, and that is scary for you because you're thinking, well, before, long ago, I looked at this dream as so big and exciting, but it does not excite me anymore because now I have a new dream. That can be scary to your ego, not to your soul, but to your ego, because your ego is saying, no, wait a minute. You can't let this go because this is attached to who you are. All right? Because also that dream or that relationship or whatever it is that you're being called to release, it is attached to an old identity that you once operated by. And you have to release that in order for the new identity to unfold. All right. So, why does that connection, let's talk about this again. Why does that connection need to be disintegrated? Because it represents a part of you that was used to settling. It represented that identity that you operated from that existed in scarcity. That old identity that is holding on to the thing that needs to be disintegrated, It represents doubt. It represents a fear of loss. So, for example, let's say that you are being called to release a relationship. Well, there's a fear of loss that comes in that because your ego is telling you, hey, if you let this go, it may be you may never get anything like this back again. Or it may be a long time before you get this back, before this, whatever that is replaced. And I'm using a relationship because we can all relate to that. All right. So that has to be disintegrated because that old identity only sees time as humanity has created it. Time as in, what's on the calendar, what's shown on your phone, what's shown on the clock. We have been programmed to put ourselves in that box, all right? When our soul knows our calling transcends time, when our soul knows that our true identity transcends all of that, all right? Also, another thing I want to point out is that what the old identity is holding on to, it represents a part of you that perhaps did not speak up for yourself. You always shoved what you desired and what you needed aside. It represents a part of you that was not honoring your feelings in order to make other people feel comfortable. Okay? That old identity that is disintegrating, it does not mean that the people that were involved, okay, in whatever that connection was or is still, it doesn't mean that they were bad. It doesn't say anything about the people because this is about you, all right? It's about what that thing represented to you in the identity that you were living from. Because the thing is, those people still served a purpose in your life. So when you look at it that way, now you can look at the old identity as a dimension of you that has now closed, while another dimension of you is now opening. So you've got closed, and then you've got this new identity, this new dimension, this new portal that has opened for you. But in between that space, that open and closing, or I should say closing and opening, it can feel dark. It can seem dark. That's where, the situations externally can look crazy when in actuality, in that dark that represents creation, okay, that's when things are falling into place for you. Okay, that's when things are falling into place so that that new dimension of you has space. Which again, it's why self-gratitude is so important, because while that dimension of you has closed, you can still recognize and honor who you were and what was. You can still look at the people in your life. You can still look at the situations. You can still look at the connections that are now disintegrating. You can still honor that. You can still honor what you were. You can still honor what was. Okay? So I want you to imagine this. Okay? So I want you to imagine that you are in this huge corridor, which almost resembles a museum, okay? This beautiful museum that has no end. There's no end to this corridor / museum, all right? And on the beautiful walls, the walls are just dripped with the best jewels. They're sparkling everywhere, all right? And what you see on the walls, you also see old clothes. Now, when I'm talking about old clothes, I'm not talking about raggedy looking clothes or clothes that just need to be thrown away or clothes that have holes in them, or no. I'm talking about just clothes, okay, that look like they have been worn. And as you're walking through this museum with these beautiful walls draped with a bunch of jewels, you notice that these clothes are clothes that you used to wear. These are clothes that used to excite you. These are clothes that you felt comfortable. You had them in your closet. You were used to wearing them. They were yours. They fit you at one time. Those are the clothes you see on the wall. But also, as you continue on, you notice that you can see these clothes, but you can't touch them, okay? They seem to be encased in some way, only to be observed. You observe your clothes, and I want you to view these clothes as a representation of your old identity. So you're not looking at these clothes with judgment or even with a frown, but now you're looking at these clothes with grace, because you have given yourself grace. You've shown yourself gratitude because you've stepped into a new dimension. Now that old identity, it seems to be from another world. So now you can continue to walk through this corridor, through this beautiful museum, because now you're ready for the unknown. The unknown doesn't scare you. Now, fear may come up, but you don't operate from that. You now have allowed your soul to carry you into this new dimension. All right? So I want you to replay this video. Okay, and I want you to understand that if you are feeling a call to release something, I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. You can view that something as big or small. It is natural to want to hold on to it. That is what your human is doing. Do not judge yourself for doing that. But now, instead of asking, okay, what do I do now? After you release it, don't ask, what do I do now? Ask, okay, what does my soul need right now? Okay? So, think about that, all right? Let that settle. If you have any questions for me, put them in the comments, all right? And thank you for watching. And until next time, cheers.